Gamebreaker TV.
Hello everybody and welcome to GuildCast 17 for April 5th, 2012. You're watching Gamebreaker TV. I am Mike Schaffnitz. Today, ArenaNet answers some important questions, and I say ArenaNet, but I mostly mean Eric Flanham. All that and more, plus your viewer questions, but first, the one and only, the lovely Elizabeth Clare. How are you, Elizabeth?
Hello. Doing well, how about you?
Doing great, doing great. And Richie Procopio. Rich, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, glad to have you on the back on the show. Everybody loved your opinion, so we thought we'd grab you again. And
Sweet.
Gamebreaker editor-in-chief Scott Hawks. Scott, how's it going?
It's all right.
As I said, you didn't get it off. I told you during the pre-show, you have something on your face. You might wanna,
I'm sorry.
You might want to take care of that.
Fell into some iron filings and just can't get them out.
Iron filings.
All right, so let's jump right into it now. ArenaNet had pretty much a EU fan day this week and answered a ton of questions. So Guildmag and Tasha Dark transcribed all of the questions and pretty much got it over in English for us. So thank you to those guys so we can actually talk about them. Now, first up, when asked about how the overflow shard would work when it comes to PvP, Eric Flanham had this to say: "Yes, you can join structured PvP when you are on the overflow server. People who are on other servers, the matchmaking in structured PvP are between different servers, so you will be able to play with people from different servers." The overflow shard is something pretty unique to Guild Wars 2. So for anyone that maybe doesn't know, it basically eliminates server queuing. If your server's full, instead of being put into a queue, you'll be temporarily put onto an overflow server where you can play the game normally until a spot opens up on your normal server. So we've talked a little bit about this before. It's such a great idea, especially to see. It's great to hear that it's going to work in PvP as well. Is this going to are people going to group? Are people going to be able to use grouping for into regular servers with this as well?
You mean like are people going to be able to group on the overflow shards? Because they will. So far as we know, it's going to be pretty much a perfect replica. So you'll be able to do personal story stuff, group up, do dynamic events, whatever you want while you're on the overflow shard.
You can go in, play around, have fun, and then whatever you've done on there will be taken over when you go back to your main server. So there's no real sort of downside to choosing to go and do that, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great feature. It hasn't gotten as much like airtime as some of the other features, but it's really important. Like especially in those first few weeks where when the servers are going to be totally crowded and totally full, you can just pop right into the game, no waiting for a queue or anything. When your home server is ready, you'll get a little pop up and it'll say, "Do you want to transfer to your home server now?" And boom, you could stay where you are and keep going doing what you're doing, or you can go over to your home server. It's pretty awesome.
Hopefully, in the long run, queues actually won't be too much of an issue, but if this does have potential to work for organized PvP, is this something that we can hope to see for dungeons as well, that you can maybe, hit up some of your guild members and jump into a dungeon as well while you're sitting on the overflow server?
Yeah, I assume so. I mean, I think you can do pretty much, like we said, anything. I don't know that you can choose to go into an overflow server specifically for that. Like you can't necessarily hop off if it's not already an option, but there shouldn't be much of an issue making everything work on the overflow server.
What you might not be able to do, I mean, obviously we don't have all the information yet, but if you're visiting a different server or if you're on an overflow server, you may not be able to grab some people from your home server and mingle them with where you are. That might not work, but That would be really cool if you could, but that might not be in the cards. Not sure.
Yeah, then things would get a bit complicated. I mean, the server system is pretty robust as it is, and who knows where it's going to go in the end. Because I'm fascinated to know what technology they're using for this, because I've never seen anything that seems so flexible and adaptable when it comes to server structure, being able to switch around like this, and not just for the overflow, for the idea that you're going to just hop around servers and play with like who you want to anyway. So I mean, the overflow server in itself is fantastic. Then you couple that with, all right, my friend on that other server, I fancy going and play with them today. Off I go. You know, it's pretty astounding what they're doing. They've got some serious tech backing all that up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, additionally, when asked about, upcoming PvP maps, Eric also had this to say. He said, so we've got 2 more PvP maps that we haven't revealed yet. They're both capture point. One of them is actually going to be pretty nostalgic for Guild Wars 1 players, so you can expect that to be something that has a lot of familiar elements for Guild Wars 1 players. And the second is one actually is pretty cool. One that is that has a lot of underwater combat and involves a pirate ship. So those are both pretty cool. Okay, so first off, a PvP map with underwater combat. Are you guys okay with the idea of having a map that has excessive underwater combat? Did it work and feel good enough to have a whole battleground kind of themed around it?
Yeah, I think when you say underwater combat, I know a lot of people sort of clench. When you mention it, because I know Gary, every time you say underwater combat, even now when you've got him locked away in that cage in the back, right now he's worried, because I've just mentioned that, which is frightening, especially in this situation right now. But yeah, the underwater combat in Guild Wars 2 is completely different to underwater combat in any MMO you have played before. It's very natural, it's free, it's easy, it's not the big confuser-thon that it is in many games. I mean, like, say EverQuest, when you're swimming in that, and your light source gives you, like, vision of about 30 yards. And you can actually, like, drown from just getting lost because you don't know where you are. In this, very easy to traverse. The 3-dimensional, the axes isn't a problem. It's very fun. It's not a problem, really isn't.
Plus, if you combine it with the fact that they said there's going to be a pirate ship, I mean, I want to take a dagger, slide down a sail, and go, "Hey, you guys!"
Oh,
Exactly.
Goonies reference! Oh my goodness, you just went the Goonies route on us. What about
I did.
and speaking of nostalgia, he brings up nostalgia elements of other Guild Wars 1 players. Do we know if there's going to be any elements of what kind of battleground we might, or structured PvP for that matter? Do you know what elements we might see integrated into one of these two new maps?
So it could be any of a couple things, because the original Guild Wars were a bunch of different styles of. I don't think we're going to see them going the Codex route, which is for the Codex arena, you have a very limited pool of skills that players can choose between. So I don't really think that that's what we're going to see, because it kind of goes against the whole philosophy of what they're going for. My personal vote would be for something very comparable to the Jade Quarry sort of mission, where you're not only controlling points but using those to get resource. Another option would be to kind of harken back to Guild versus Guild and have a Guild Lord that needs to be killed for extra points. But that's awfully similar to the forest creatures in the newer map we saw, so I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm not a huge PvPer in the original Guild Wars, but I agree with Elizabeth. Jade Quarry has, not only do you have these mines that you take over, but there's like a giant siege turtle and a golem that goes and collects the jade from these mines, and you actually have to protect them on their way back to certain points. So maybe you can get a control point, be the mines, so you get points for owning the control point, but maybe you get extra points as these creatures lumber across the map and actually deliver the goods.
Are those elements that you want to see integrated, or are you kind of thinking and hoping that they bring the whole entire zone itself to Guild Wars 2, or just kind of the elements from that?
Well, they said they were going to do some sort of nostalgic nod to one of the PvP maps from the original Guild Wars. So that's just maybe a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, giant siege turtles are cool.
I think also from the statement as well, that it can kind of look at first glance, well, they're all going to be control point ones. And they all feel a bit all the same. But what they talk about, and is, I mean, already in the Niflheim,
The Forest of Niflheim.
Forest of Niflheim. Already in that, you've got like variations with the bosses and so on, and I think that we'll see in these other maps, we'll see, yeah, it's control point, but there's other variations in there to make it so it's not just that straightforward. They won't all feel like the same map. The Niflheim, we keep going to say Fields of the Nephilim. I'm old.
That's a wonderful reference.
Yeah. It adds variation to that basic core concept for a PvP map, and I think that's what they're talking about when it comes to references to Guild Wars, looking at those variations that they're going to bring in from the first one, and so the maps are going to be feeling very different. Love the idea of pirate ships and all the rest of it, so you've got to be thinking for the other one, there's going to be something a bit cute in there as well, just to make it cool.
But Richie, you know, are you slightly disappointed by the fact that all the maps kind of include even the two that they're bringing in, they're going to kind of include the same capture point mechanic? Would you like to see something new and different, or are you okay with kind of the system that they have in place right now?
It's a tough question. I'm kind of okay with it. I mean, obviously, we've recently seen that, you know, there's still room to innovate the type of PvP battlegrounds. Where, I mean, Hutball was a huge hit and kind of outside the box thinking and stuff like that in Star Wars: The Republic. But I think they're going to vary it up from map to map enough. Like I said, they're going to keep that core concept in place. So it's a conquest map. You control points. But, you know, we've already seen in the two maps, you know, one of them has a trebuchet. You can destroy and knock down buildings and walls and kind of change the map. And the other one's got these mini bosses you can take out for extra points. And I think that's key. It's not just getting points for owning the little, you know, space, you know, controlling the point, but you also get points for killing other players. And sometimes there's secondary objectives that really change up how it plays. So as long as they continue to innovate in that manner and make things, you know, feel a little bit different with the little secondary objectives, I think it'll be fine.
Well, I mean,
I want Hutball. I said this last week, but I know more now why. Is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my Guardian. I'm going to have my Guardian, and I'm going to put Line of Ward in and just bounce the Hutball off it back to myself over and over again. Yeah, that way.
Just be a one man passing army. All by yourself.
Do you want the ball? Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, it's mine. You know, they also came in and mentioned that, you know, they plan to be extremely flexible with what the core mechanic could be. It would be really nice to see something like capture the flag or something that's not necessarily resource or a quantity based increment with battlegrounds, right? Or are you guys 100% okay with that? What about you, Elizabeth? Would you be okay with that?
Well, I don't necessarily see why you couldn't have capture the flag taking part in a capture point mechanic. Like, that could be a map's other mechanic. So I don't really think that by saying everything's going to have capture points, you're really necessarily ruining or ruling out others like capture the flag or other really popular mechanics.
For like World of Warcraft, Eye of the Storm, that's capture point and capture the flag. So
that's true.
Yep.
You know, but I guess in the complete other hand of things, of them using the same system over and over from an esports point of view, having one core mechanic across all four maps should make it easy for every player who gets involved to kind of understand, you know, who's ahead and who's behind based on that system. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things they said in this interview or the transcript was that, you know, they want it to be immediately recognizable. As they want to have a score at the top of the screen, and they want people to be able to instantly tell who's winning and kind of what's going on. And, you know, by keeping every map have the same primary objective, they can just switch up those secondary objectives. It's going to really meet that goal if they eventually put in things like spectator mode and make it an e-sport. If they have one map that's kind of like Hutball and the next one is, you know, kind of a capture the flag and the next one, you know, if they're all different, then, you know, a new player trying to watch the esport for the first time is going to get confused from map to map. But as long as it stays consistent, I think that's really what they're going for.
And even beyond just an esport, it makes it a lot easier as an actual PvPer to join into it because if you're aware of the capture point mechanic, you can play in that map and still be really effective, and then learn about the secondary mechanic as you're going along, as opposed to like jumping into this and being like, what the heck is Hutball? Like, what's going on? I don't understand. So it just makes it a lot more friendly while allowing for a lot of versatility, I feel.
makes a little sense. I know, that's probably one of the biggest struggles
Just
people.
a little.
Just
Sorry.
just a little bit. All right. Well, also when asked about loot progression and pretty much how crafting is going to tie in, Eric had this to say. He said there's a certain look to the super high level crafted items that you can only get by crafting the item. There's a certain look. There's a world vs. world armor set that you can only get through playing world vs. world. And so that the high end reward thing, appearance is really the thing, but as far as power goes, you can get power by doing any part of the game. So pretty much no matter what way you want to play the game, it's merely a cosmetic change. Is he basically saying, Scott, that you're going to have to craft to be in the most powerful, or actually, is he saying that you can basically craft and be as powerful as the top PvP or PvE players?
Yeah. Basically, what he's saying is you choose your route to getting the gear that you want to get. Do you want to go? Do you want to go and get your PvE events? Do you want to go through that way? Do you want to get your karma and get some stuff through that way? Do you want to go and make it yourself? And it's one of the key things for me is as a self-professed trade skill idiot who spends enough time like driving myself crazy trying to make good armor that it actually matters. So many games, what you do is your crafting armor is always 2 levels below the good stuff that you get out of the big events, and it just completely undermines. Well, it just destroys the morale of a crafter, because you get all the way through, and then you'll usually end up going, well, I can make like 2 decent items, but to do it, I've got to go to raids. They've probably got something better on the mobs that are going to drop the crafting materials anyway. So what's the point? It turns into just a grind fest for the sake of saying, well, I've hit the top level. So having something that's a genuine, worthwhile pursuit to get the gear you want, if you want to put the time in to do it that way, you'll get the just rewards for it, which is fantastic. I'm really pleased about that.
But it's not going to necessarily sway in anyone's favor. Like, Elizabeth, no one will be... I won't have to craft. Like, I can get my best gear by being just straight up hardcore PvP.
Yeah. So you can get the best gear by doing PvP. You can get the best gear by doing PvE. Like, karma vendors out in the world should have comparable gear, and the level 80 dungeon, assuming there's at least one or more, is going to have the best gear. Like, you're going to be able to play the way that you want to play, and essentially at this point, if you couldn't do that, I'd be really upset with ArenaNet, because they've emphasized it so much about play the way you want to play. We're not, punishing people for doing this over that. So if you're going to enable all these playstyles, I really hope that you'd reward them all equally, which they seem to be setting out to do.
Sure. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it goes back to something I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, is it's just not a gear-based game in that, like World of Warcraft and stuff. It's a skill-based game. So upon hitting level 80, it's not very difficult to get the best statistically, the armor that's the best statistically for you, or the weapons that are the best statistically for you. And you can just get them in any way that you want. You play whichever style. You can get crafting ones that are going to look different than PvP skins, and they're going to look different than the dungeon skins. But everyone's going to be, it's a gear plateau. Everyone's going to be on a level playing field in terms of how powerful your gear is.
Honestly, when you're playing the game, it's just so obvious all the way through that the barriers, the sort of, how can I put it? The barriers between the different lanes that you usually have in MMOs that keep you in one or the other if you're going to get anywhere are just gone. They're not there. So if you want to switch between and do wherever you feel like, you can. It's not an issue. And that's virtually every style of play in the game that's there is built that way. So gear is just another example of that. And so, as I said, any avenue you want to get there, it's there for you. It's just your choice of playstyle and which one you prefer to do yourself.
Well, donations, guys. I really want to thank everybody who has donated to Gamebreaker TV. Thank you guys so much. You guys help keep this studio running. If you haven't considered a donation, please consider it. We have a new thing on the Gamebreaker store running all this week. It is a Gary Gannon macro transaction for a Gary Gannon skin. If you guys donate, who knows, you guys could work your way up to getting that Gary Gannon skin. And then I'll put it on, and Gary Gannon can be back in this chair, and you can all love him all you guys want. So consider donating if you haven't already.
Donate to the free Gary Gannon fund.
Donate to the free Gary Gannon from the Cage Fund. All right, so moving on here. Esports, basically talking about esports, Eric had this to say after pretty much saying that the first step to making great PvP, or to making Guild Wars a great PvP game, he said this: you have to kind of come in with that second tier of support, like observer mode, and being able to watch matches and having tournaments and having support for all of that. So it's fully our intent to support the game as an esport, and right now we're concentrating on releasing a broadly appealing, accessible, and fun to watch form of PvP. And that's run-on sentence galore. And that's kind of our concentration at the moment to do that. But we definitely look at our competitive PvP as an esport. So, from what you guys have seen so far, we have just completely lost your camera, Scott, so try and get that back.
There he is.
Welcome back. I missed you.
Thank you.
From what you guys have seen so far, do you think that structured PvP has what it takes to be a competitive esport?
Yes, I mean it is going to need that observer mode really for it to kick on. But at launch, the basic structure of the structured PvP zones. Wow, there's a repeated word. The basic way that the structured PvP zones are built certainly lend themselves to fun, easy to follow fights that are laid out in ways that will show clusters of combat, different styles of combat going on, and it lends itself in. There's a lot of clearly visible signifiers to what's going on through the abilities, very clearly signified. Seriously, if you don't know there are someone shooting fiery arrows at you when you watch Guild Wars 2, you need to go and get your eyes checked because it's really obvious. So there's those elements are all there for the esports. It just needs, when they can get that spectator mode in eventually, I think you could really see something a bit special.
I agree. I think it's got everything. You know, it needs the spectator mode. You know, I think some people are disappointed that it's not in already, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, they're setting up, like we were talking about earlier. They made sure that the PvP matches are going to be something that you're going to be able to tell easily what's going on and different things like that. And you know, if you look at Guild Wars, you know, the original Guild Wars, it was very popular for its PvP, and that had spectator mode in it. You know, and so I think that they're on the right track, and they are serious about, you know, really breaking into the esport, you know, realm with this game.
Well, and the combat in Guild Wars 2 is what looks just so fun, and we've talked a little bit about this before, where there can be, you know, a lot of explosions and a lot of particle effects going on. Is there any sort of danger that could affect lower end PCs for gamers that maybe don't have a system that's up to spec? And turn off viewers if ArenaNet doesn't necessarily fix how it can affect them?
There's optimization still to be done.
There's definitely optimization to be done.
But I mean, they've said that.
Yeah, and we said last week that they understand that that's a problem at this point, and it's one of the things that they're working on, and maybe developing another magical, never-before-seen system to deal with it. You know, we never know. But yeah, that's something that definitely needs to be taken care of. One thing I will say for, you know, its possibilities in esport is that we already know that observer mode is going to be hugely successful, because if you look at any PvP video that's been uploaded, like, everybody's thrilled about it, and on virtually every single one that I've seen, somebody's talking about, I keep moving my mouse, like, wanting to control the character myself. So we see that people are already hugely enjoying it, kind of super vicariously. You know, it's not any sort of live thing that they're watching, and they're still completely trapped by it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, when also asked about how players could realize a cross-profession combo was going on, Eric had this to say. He said that you can see the arrows catch fire, or you can see the smoke going out if you do a stomp effect inside of a smoke cloud. The other things which you get is a little pop-up that says combo whenever you're performing a cross-profession combo. And it's up to players to notice that. We will probably do a little bit more refinement on it. So, am I the only one that wishes when I get a cross cross-profession combo that you just get this combo shouted out for you. There's gonna be an add-on for it. There's gonna be an add-on for it. Someone is going to do it, and that is going to be.
I hope not.
No, you would not.
Okay,
you would not
so-
put that add-on on. Are you kidding me?
I would not, because as an elementalist, okay, so in the final event, for the closing event of the most recent beta weekend, it was like 40 to 50 players in mobs, like going after these Inquest Asura. And I, as an elementalist, was trying to be really nice to the melee folk who were dying, and I'd put down a healing rain cloud. I got a combo notification for every single ranger and warrior who was shooting a bullet or an arrow through my field. My screen was loaded with combos.
Combo.
It was absolutely ridiculous and wonderful and fun, of course, but I do not want someone shouting at me every time I get a combo.
Okay, how about if you block a combo, you get combo breaker.
That I'll go for.
Okay, all right. At least Scott, you're rubbing your head no? Not an arcade fighting game fan at all?
I am, yes. However, I can just imagine that doing WVW in a meet, it's like 100 people, like my ears would be bleeding
Exactly.
after like 30 seconds.
Are you going to take the next step when you go over to a down foe and you execute him? It goes fatality.
Yeah, why not? Let's just make this so over the top with audible add-ons. I'm on it. Someone make that add-on. I want it installed.
The design choice they've got is that what they're trying to do is make the abilities that you use actually kind of part of the world. So instead of you having great big like signs over your head that say you just did that, like you do in a lot of MMOs, it's like the things that you're doing, the visual component of it is what is the biggest signifier of what's happening. So bullet goes through fire, it sets on fire, and that's how you see. So it feels more natural, and sort of that sense of immersion is what they're trying to keep. So I can understand how much fun seeing me lying on the floor crying after 30 minutes of WVW would be. But it'd kind of break. That's why they're saying we're going to work on it a little, but I don't think they want to go too far, 'cause it would break the design, the overall sort of design bible for what they're going for in the game.
Gotcha.
Also, in a more serious vein, like, combos pop up a lot, especially if you're playing with other characters. I mean, even as a warrior, I would occasionally make combos with myself by shooting out a fire field and then shooting through it. So it as cute as it would be for the first 10 or 15 combos, I think eventually, because it pops up so frequently, you would get really, really, really tired of whatever add-on that was.
Nope. I would keep it.
Nope. Nuh-uh.
When asked about the missing races in the beta event so far, Eric had this to say. He said, we do plan on expanding the content that's available in future events. What we have to do is to sort of draw a line of revealing too much so that things aren't spoiled to people, alongside trying to get more people testing various areas. You may see additional races available, and you may not. So do you think that we're going to see either of these two races publicly before they launch, especially because they're kind of saying they want to keep some stuff hidden, and with pre-purchasers given access to the beta for every beta weekend period after April 10th, they're not going to really be able to hold anything back and hold anything away from people if they put it into the beta. Do you guys think that we will see them before launch?
I might be a little weird here, but I hope not. I know that might sound strange. I don't like spoilers. I don't like that before the game launches that a video of everything is already out on the internet for you to see. I would like them to hold it back. Now, will they? I'm not so sure. It does seem like the kind of thing that drum up a little bit of excitement right before launch. Like, here, look, character creator for the Sylvari, character creator for the Asura, starting areas and different things like that, city tours and all that kind of stuff. So they might do it just to drum up some extra excitement, but I hope not. Hold something back.
I thought that you would see both of the races definitely not that too far apart, but after the end I was like, okay, because that's what MMOs that's what happens, in your beta as you do your running. But after hearing this, I've got a feeling that they might show us one of them, but they might hold one back, either until launch or right before it. And
Pick their
just
favorite
keep it.
child.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
What about the...
This is my lovely one. You're not going to see it for a while.
It's a very, very
I really think it's going to... That might be what they're going to do, and I think that's really cool.
What about the idea of, potentially, because of the day and age that we're in right now with everybody streaming and putting up their own video content when they get access to betas, what if instead of making it public, they still released information and they still released their own, ArenaNet made videos that highlight it? Would you guys want to see that before launch, or do you really just want to wait until the game's launch to see it on your own? I mean, Richie, you said that you don't like spoilers. Would you want to see an ArenaNet made highlight video?
Anyone that knows me personally knows that I hate trailers for movies, trailers for video games, anything that shows me anything before it comes out. So no, I'm a little weird like that. I like being totally surprised and immersed in the moment and seeing it for the first time while I'm playing. That's just me.
How about you, Elizabeth?
Well, we kind of already have seen stuff, like we've seen Capital City fly-throughs for both, both the Grove and Radisum, and we've seen from last year's convention circuit people going through and making characters. So it's not like super extra brand new,
Sure.
but I also kind of I wouldn't be surprised if they let us play those races again up to level 30 or whatever in future beta weekends. But I kind of hope they don't. First of all, there's still so much that's in the content that we already have, and while I understand that they want to test other things, it's kind of nice to know that there's something kind of waiting pristine for you later.
So you don't even you wouldn't even want to see Starting Zone or Capital Cities for these guys. You just want all of you guys are kind of saying just wait, save it, and let me have something special when box product comes.
I wouldn't mind it. And especially if they stuck with the formula that they have so far of, level 1 to 20 of the personal story is available and level 1 to 30 of content is available, because then you know that you've got 50 levels that are untouched no matter what race you're playing. So again, it wouldn't ruin the experience for me, and if they made it available, I would absolutely go play an Asura and a Sylvari right away. But in my little ideal world, they don't release them until the game.
I think to me, it's if they do it, that's what you'd expect to happen. If they don't, I think that's much more intriguing.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of that really happening very often, where they go, well, it's all ready, and it's ready because look at the rest of the game, but we're not going to show you because we're just that evil. So come and play, and then you can see.
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting to see how that went. It just seems that if it's all there before you go in, that happens too much for me with MMOs these days. That you basically, there are some MMOs where you've essentially played the entire game before it even launches.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is with Guild Wars 2, it's so bloody big that it's impossible to actually. I mean, even just with what we've got, in a weekend, you're going to try and cover all that. You've got no chance, and that's just with the 3 races. So there's no way, even just on these beta weekends, that you'd get to see everything anyway, even if they released that stuff, as Elizabeth already said. But to actually hold even more of it back and just to tease us along, I think that'd be quite fun.
How important do you think these 2 races are to Guild Wars fans and Guild Wars players? Do you think that they want to get in and play this before beta? I mean, it's really interesting to say, we're in a stage now where betas have almost just become, pre-play experiences, and you've played the game entirely before it's even launched. Are these races something that players are really clamoring to get their hands on and see, or is it kind of more just, wait and see, and I'm focusing more on everything that I want to do?
I think most players are super jazzed for them. I mean, the Asura especially, but also the Sylvari are kind of unique to Guild Wars. I mean, Norn, people make the argument that they're just scaled up humans, and Asura are very much like what you'd see in gnomes of other races and stuff, but they are kind of the very own Guild Wars creation, and so I think that long-standing fans of the series are going to really look forward to having that time when you're first stepping into the Asura, and you're remembering what it was like when you first met Beck. Back in Eye of the North. I think that's going to be a really wonderful moment for a lot of people, and so I hope people are excited. Goodness knows I am, but yeah.
They both those races have a ton of personality, and you know, the Silvari are new to Guild Wars too. You know, we haven't been able to play them in the original Guild Wars. They have a really unique story. The whole race is only 25 years old, so that's great. And the Asura, they're so snarky. They're so, you know, they're so full of themselves. They're so hyper-minded. You know, it's just they're characters, and they're going to be great. So players are definitely excited to get their hands on these guys.
They're the two races. Like if you look at the race you have available, Norn, your barbarian style, sort of tough people of the north. You know, there is sort of a classic fantasy trope. You've got your Char, the warrior, the sort of ferocious sort of aspect that you see. Humans, again, the classic fantasy interpretation of humans in a large conurbation and in rural sort of settings. Rubric, perhaps, I don't know what I'm doing. But when it comes to the Azure and the Silvari, they're really different. And I think it's interesting that these two are the ones that kept backed. Maybe because it's going to take longer to make something that's so very individual and different in the styling of these races. But also, I just think they're the most fun. Role players will have an absolute field day with those two races. Because the Silvari, you gotta talk like everybody would think you're crazy, but actually you're making more sense than anybody else in the room. And that's a really fun aspect of them. And then with the Azura, well, you know, you're just smarter than anybody else, and it's difficult to, you know, get along. So you've got real sort of flavour in both races that's just immediate and obvious all over the place. And to me, that's why they're going to be, not just for long-term Guild Wars fans, but for just people coming new to the whole the old IP. I think they'll really grab the attention and hold it.
All right, so moving on from the questions asked to Eric Flanham here, we do have one more question from Regina Buenobra. Buenobra? I'm going to say Buenobra. When asked about what the recently announced official forums would mean for all of the fan site forums out there, she had this to say. In terms of what it means for the community, it means that we will be participating on the official forums, but we don't think that it means that the fan sites will die out as some people have been predicting. The thing is that a lot of people enjoy having the freedom and being able to speak their mind. They don't want to be moderated by the man, which can happen on official forums. So I don't know, Scott. Do you agree with her? I think every major MMO has plenty of fan sites to go along with it. But do you agree that it's kind of like she's more saying this is, you can go elsewhere, but we obviously have to regulate by what our standards are, and you'll have your other fan sites. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I like so much is how they've come out and said, right, this is the way it's going to be when you come to our forums. Not, well, you know, we'll see, we'll have moderation around and we'll see what we can do. But no, it's, you come to our place and you're in our house and we'll tell you how to sit, and you're not going to mouth off and you're not going to be a pain in the backside. We'll tell you that for nothing. And I love that. It's out the gate. What was it Martin Kirstein said? Some people maybe have to learn how to behave online. And that's probably a good thing. And I laughed my backside off of that, because I think that is the exact attitude to take going into it. If you want to go and troll and everything, there are plenty of fan sites. You can make your own and do it to your heart's content. But you step onto ArenaNet territory and you start trying to make other people feel uncomfortable playing the game, you're going to get slapped down. And fair enough. There's going to be plenty of fan sites for catering to all sorts of whatever people want to do. Machinima, there's going to be tons of machinima coming out of this. Whatever you feel like, and what they're trying to say is, whatever you want to do, we're going to support you and give you an avenue to link up with other people to help you do it. However, if you think you can start sort of stepping all over other people at the same time you're trying, then you've come to the wrong place, which, fair enough.
And overall, having an official forum is really just too big of an advantage to ignore. It kind of gives them a level of control, but also enables them to kind of reach as much of their player base as possible, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that, reason why this is highly debated is in Guild Wars there was no official forum. So, the Guru forums kind of became the go-to, the unofficial official forums, and even the ArenaNet staff post there. But for a new player, it's kind of confusing. You go to the Guild Wars website or the ArenaNet website, and you're expecting some sort of forums because that's the norm these days, and you can't find one. And how do you learn that the unofficial official forums are over at the Guru? And there's going to be a large influx of players coming in Guild Wars 2 that never played Guild Wars before, and the expectations are that you're going to have official forums. So this is definitely the way they want to do it. They want to have a vehicle to announce information in one place instead of you having to look over here and look over here and who knows. So they definitely have to do it, and I like the way that they're going about it.
This is something that's very much in keeping with the kind of community philosophy that they've been preaching kind of from the beginning. At last year's PAX, they had a community panel, and they were talking about really wanting to develop an ecosystem basically for the community where everybody's running their own little parts, and the machinima people are doing what they do best, and the forum people are doing what they do best. So what they're really providing is kind of, as Richie was saying, it's kind of the starting point. So you go to the website and you see that, oh, there are forums here, and the forums are great, and conversations going on, but you're really interested in this one thing, and there's not a huge community for that in the forums, but you're looking and there's someone's put a link there to their website, and so you go there and suddenly you find all these like-minded people. So really, I think no community manager wants to kill fan sites. Like, that is never their intent in creating an official kind of meeting place, because fan sites are what makes a community, and they're what keeps a community thriving. So I'm really excited that they have the forums, and I hope that they function the way that ArenaNet's kind of been promoting that they want them to function, because I think it'll be a really beautiful and strong thing for the community.
Well, and I mean, honestly, let's face it, when it comes down to it, official forums are the community around them is 90% times negative. So honestly, fan sites will probably do a lot better for the exact reason that you said there, is they'll cultivate the ability for people to find other fan sites, and then those will kind of become the forums that they want to end up being a part of, if that's where they need to be, because you get lost in the masses on official forums fairly easily. Scott, you got
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see we'll see what happens. I mean, they've been pretty bold that that's not acceptable for them. They don't want it to be a wretched hive of scum and villainy. They want it to be a place where it's kind of like Elizabeth was saying. It's like a hub, a central location where people can kind of go to different places. I think they have their work cut out for them. It's not going to be easy, but does that mean that they shouldn't try?
I think when you talk about 90% negative, it certainly sounds like that because they're the loudest people. They're the ones who go back so much, and they're the ones who look for the drama. Now, there's a difference between moderation and forming the attitude that you want before you've even started. Because if you've already let the nutters in, then you've got to just deal with them after that. But if you basically say, okay, you can come in, oh no, I don't like that, out, then you're forming your community, you're actually building it from the ground up. And that's what they're doing with this. They're saying, right, forget what you know about forums, because this isn't that place. And if you come in and try and treat them that way, fine, you're just not going to be here for very long. And then what's left are the people who are going to be like-minded, actually interested in the game, and not the meta drama of communicating with each other and getting on each other's nerves on forums. It's, as Richie said, it's going to be tough. But if you go in with it from the outset with that attitude, it's the best shot you've got at making an official forums that people actually want to read to learn about the game, rather than read to learn about who's calling somebody else something this week.
All right, so let's jump into some viewer questions and wrap this all up here. Jaden Batashil wants to know, is there any news on how many character slots we will have?
We had, what, like 5 in the beta?
4, was it?
4 or 5?
4 or 5?
I think it was 5.
Was it 5?
I think it was 5.
Do we have any
This is
news
on
on
the-
Might have been 4.
Do we have any news
We're
on
on-
if they're going to be increasing that, or is that kind of what their standard's going to be?
We have no news either way. They haven't confirmed. It might be that they're giving us extra for beta weekends. It might be that they're trying to, throw us for a loop, and it's actually going to be 6. So no, we don't know.
There is nothing official
on the
on
Guild
that.
Wars wiki. It says they haven't made any announcements, but they do know that there will be additional character slots available for microtransactions.
Those
Chat room's full of a lot of fives.
tricky microtransactions. All right, next up here, Aaron Cutright wants to know, I have heard that there are portals you need to go through to get from one leveling area to the next, such as moving from 1 to 15 area to a 16 to 30 area. If this is true, does it make the world feel instanced, or is that just a rumor? And I think, you know, I think overall, Scott, I'll let you take this. I think overall we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about, you know, moving around and having combat or not having flight in last week's episode.
Yeah, I was shocked when I got out to my level 1 area, then to have to take a tunnel through to the level 2 area. It really just kind of broke. Now, it's a really open world, and we talk about that. It's a massive open world. When you look on your map, it'll give you an indicator of the sort of level range of that general area, but you'll be crossing over into. I've crossed over into them without realizing, and believe me, I suffered for it. Because you'll be just running around and, oh, look, that's pretty, and then something smashes you over the back of the head, and you go, I'm not supposed to be here, am I? So no, there's no sort of obvious line between leveling or even people who are used to, let's say, Age of Conan. I'm sorry to bring it up, but Age of Conan, I'm sorry. They've got that sort of basically circular maps, which are enclosed areas for each area. So basically, you have one route in, one route out, and the whole rest of it is just basically a big circle with stuff in the middle. That's not Tyria in Guild Wars 2 at all. It's big, rolling, open. You can go explore and all the rest of it, and it all merges, and the difficulty changes along the way. So no, that's I don't know where that rumor came from, but whoever started it was a very naughty person.
Well, there are technically portals between larger maps. So, like, if you're going from the 1 to 15 map to the 15 to 30 map, or 15 to 25 map, like, there's a portal there, but it's not instanced in the way that I think most Guild Wars players are going to be trained to think of it, as far as it doesn't reset anything. Like, you can pop out and pop back in, and whatever you just killed is probably still killed, because you have a persistent effect on the world. So they're massive. So as Scott was saying, like, you don't notice that you're in, like, this enclosed area, essentially closed off by portals from other content areas, because individual maps are so huge that you're going through, first of all, literally 15 levels worth of mobs and dynamic events and hearts before you even have to think about crossing into any other portals. And because everything is so persistent, it's not something where you feel like you're looking at a loading screen every 5 to 15 minutes, and you don't feel like, oh my gosh, like another place I have to go through. It's really beautifully implemented, in my opinion.
Most of the your sort of portals are mainly for travel after after you've got to them. So it's not like you have to use them to get somewhere. You get there, and then you can use them to go back and forward and all over the place. So there is that sort of gradation of content, but it's not like invisible walls and everything all around you. It's just it's not like that.
All right, well, Scott Hawks, you can follow him right there at Jerry Moore. Scott, what do you got in the way of articles coming up for Gamebreaker?
The Guardian's Tale Part 3 went up this evening. Please go watch that. Watch me set fire to myself a lot. Terrible. Me and Mike B maybe working on a live commentary with the two of us talking about how terrible I am at PvP across 2 maps, which will be lots of fun. People can point to me and say, you're terrible. And Part 4 of Guardian's Tale this weekend, loads of stuff.
And the one and only Elizabeth Clare. Elizabeth, you can follow her at Elizabeth Clare with an X. Elizabeth, what you got going on?
PAX East this weekend.
Ooh, that's right.
So I'll be writing about everything that I see and do there. And as always, Flame Seeker Chronicles comes out on Tuesdays.
Where can people find your writing if they want to keep up?
Massively is actually where you want to find me. So massively.com is where I'm a columnist and a news person thing. I don't know if they actually want me to admit that to the world, but I am.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And Richie Procopio. You can follow him at Richie Procopio. Rich, what do you got on the way? What you got going on today?
Live stream shows for Massively, and tomorrow I'll be putting out a new YouTube video about Guild Wars 2 on my YouTube channel, Bog Otter.
And you can follow me right here at Mike Schaffnitz.
Otters.
What was that?
I think we were commenting about otters.
Otters. You can follow me at Otters with a cute little arrow thing. I don't know how to, I can't do it. But you can follow me at Mike Schaffner. Be sure to follow at Gamebreaker TV for all of your gaming related news. We do all these wonderful video news hits throughout the day, so be sure to come follow us over there and keep up on all of your gaming news. GuildCast, be sure you guys catch it every Thursday, 6 p.m. PDT. If you did not watch this in the live chat room with us, we do it every Thursday. So if you have not, we hope to see you next time. See you next week.
Smashing.
Get you back.